guys, what's going on? Today we're going to be doing a little bit of carp fishing at the local lake. I've got my rod, my pole holder, and my corn down there. Just going to run you through quickly kind of how I set it up, and then I'm going to bait up my hook, throw it out, and then we'll wait for a carp to hit. But anyways, it's kind of how I basically set it up. Rod and reel isn't too big of an issue. I kind of just use whatever I have rigged up at the moment, usually around 8 to 9 feet. I've used 6.5 foot like ultralight trout rods as well. So, you know, it kind of just depends on if you have the open space to play them. You can use a much lighter rod, much lighter line, much lighter gear in general. But this is I think a 9 foot or 9'2" medium action Guide Select Pro. It's what I use for drift fishing, for salmon, steelhead, throwing spoon spinners. Kind of my gear rod for that. It's got 12-pound P-line CXX on it, and then it's got a Revo Beast casting reel. You know, pretty much it's a overkill for carp, but it's just what I had rigged up at the moment. Usually for weight wise, I use an inline weight like this. 1/2 ounce is about the max. Since I'm using cast reel, 1/2 ounce. It's just super easy to cast. I don't like to go super heavy because you don't need to. You're only going to be casting, I'm probably going to cast about 30 feet and that's it. And then I have a short leader, anywhere from 8 to 12 inches of leader. That is also a 12-pound. You can use lighter if you like. This is just a little 1/0 like split shot or drop shot hook. You can use really any hook, they're not picky. I just had this from bass fishing, so I used it. The reason I use 8 to 12 inch leader is so that when that fish bites, you might not be able to detect the bite right away. So when that fish bites, it'll be laying on bottom like this. Say the hook's right there, that fish bites. It can only go 8 to 12 inches before it has resistance from that hook, and that hook kind of gets set in. If you have a 6 foot leader, that fish can swim 6 feet, and it's more likely that that fish is going to swallow that hook. Whereas this will be more in the corner of the mouth or up more in the mouth rather than deep down in the throat. So it's more friendly for catch and release. If you're not catching and releasing, if you're planning on keeping the carp, not a big deal. But I just do this. I feel that it really helps them not swallow the hook. And then right here, I just have a swivel clipped into that. You don't have to do that. Again, that's just what I had tied on from the last time I went steelhead fishing and was drift fishing with this rod. So I just clipped it to the weight, but usually I just tie it to the weight. And then I just kind of cover the hook in corn, and then that's pretty much it. Yeah, then I just put some pieces of corn kind of all up the hook. So probably, you know, any size of corn, 5 to 8 pieces of corn on the hook, just like that, kind of just to somewhat camouflage the hook. They're not really, I mean, that smart. They are pretty, some days they can get very spooky though. So right there, just like that, keep the hook point exposed. Then what I like to do, I just cast it out a little bit. See, like that far, that's really all you need. Right there, boom. I set it in here, set it in the rod holder, just like that. I loosen the drag up a little bit so that it'll just bend, but the fish won't have full drag in the pole holder because it might be a minute before I see it. And what I do, I grab some corn and I throw it out kind of where I cast it, just a little bit. Now with the chumming, in freshwater, you have to check your state's regulations and the body of water's regulations. For this body of water in this state, I'm allowed to chum for food fish, not game fish. Carp is a food fish, so it is legal for me to chum for food fish. Carp is a food fish, so I'm able to do that. If I was fishing for game fish, you're not allowed to chum for game fish in this state, so I wouldn't be able to throw out chum for carp. But since carp is a food fish, I can do that. Now, yeah, you pretty much, I loosen my drag up very loose, so the rod will just have a nice bend, but the carp won't be fighting a full drag. I'll be able to see the bend in the line will lift up when the fish is going. I'll be able to see that. Then I can get over here, tighten the drag, and fight the fish. But yeah, anyways, hope you enjoyed that. I will see you when we hopefully hook a carp. I forgot one last tip that's really important in some of these lakes. This lake, as you might be able to see, has a rocky bottom, but in that deeper channel, it's a muddy bottom. So there's a lot of vegetation that grows, a lot of weeds. And I fished this spot for carp a few times, so I've already casted out and tested it. But what I like to do if it's a new spot to carp fishing, I like to cast out various distances and see where kind of the weed edge is. And then I don't want to fish in the weeds. I feel like fishing isn't as successful in the weeds, so I like to find that, not necessarily a rocky bottom, but just a rocky or muddy bottom, just a bottom clear of weeds. And then that's just where I like to fish. So that's where I casted the weight out. I've fished this area a few times, so I know that that's a clean bottom without any vegetation or weeds on it. So that's just where I cast it, and then that's where I chum the corn. But hopefully you guys thought these tips were good. Hopefully these tips will help you in your future carp endeavors, and hopefully I will see you when we hook onto a carp, and I'll see you then if that happens. We got one. Oh, this is a good one. Oh, this is a good one. Oh. Oh, I see him. Yeah. Oh. Oh. That's a good one. Barely hooked. Here. Let's get out of the water. Alright, then I'll take the GoPro, and then you can grab the cord.